If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to our channel for more gripping tales from the wilderness. I'd been alone in this cabin for 30 winters, the snow piling high against the walls, the wind howling like a restless spirit. The mountains of the Yukon were my home, my prison, my everything. I'd come here chasing gold, like so many before me, but the fever faded long ago. Now it was just me, the creak of the floorboards, and the endless cold. My hands, rough as the granite I once mined, stoked the fire each night. The flames were my only company, their crackle a poor substitute for human voices. I'd forgotten what it felt like to hear my name spoken aloud. The world beyond these walls felt like a dream I'd once had. Each day blurred into the next, marked only by the tasks that kept me alive. This was my life, carved out in solitude. The cabin was small, built with my own hands from logs I felled in my younger years. It smelled of pine and smoke, the kind of scent that clings to your soul. My bed was a narrow cot, the mattress thin and lumpy, but it served. A single window, frosted over most days, let in a weak light. I'd sit by it sometimes, staring at the snow, wondering if I'd ever leave. The shelves held what little I owned, a few tin cups, a rusted pan, some books I'd read 100 times. My rifle hung above the door, though I rarely hunted anymore. The forest provided enough, and I'd learned to make do with less. Each winter felt longer, heavier, as if time itself froze with the rivers. Still, I endured. Mornings began with the same ritual: break the ice in the bucket, boil water, sip bitter coffee. The cold seeped into my bones, no matter how high I stoked the fire. I'd check my traps, trudging through snow that swallowed my boots, my breath clouding the air. The silence out there was vast, broken only by the crunch of my steps or a distant wolf's howl. I'd find a rabbit or two, maybe a fox, their fur matted with frost. Skinning them was slow work. My fingers weren't as nimble as they used to be. Back in the cabin, I'd cook what I had, the smell of roasting meat a small comfort. Night fell early, the darkness pressing against the walls. I'd sit by the fire, staring into its depths, lost in thought. I wasn't always alone. Decades ago, I had a partner, Tom, who shared this dream of striking it rich. We'd laugh, plan our fortunes, our voices filling the cabin. But the gold was scarce, and Tom grew restless. One spring, he left for the city and never came back. I stayed, stubborn or foolish, I'm not sure which. The years piled up, and I stopped expecting company. The nearest town was a 3-day trek, too far for an old man in winter. I hadn't seen another soul in years, save for the occasional trapper passing through. They'd nod, share a word or two, then vanish into the snow. I didn't mind. Solitude suited me, or so I told myself. The winters were the hardest. The cold wasn't just weather, it was a living thing, clawing at you. I'd wake to find ice on the inside of the window, my breath visible in the air. The fire was my lifeline, and I guarded it like a treasure. I'd haul logs from the shed, my back aching with each step. The woodpile dwindled faster than I liked, and I'd curse myself for not preparing enough. Food was scarce too. The traps didn't always yield. I'd ration my supplies, a bit of dried meat, some beans, a handful of flour. Hunger became a familiar ache, dull but constant. Yet I never thought of leaving. This cabin, this life, was all I knew. I kept a journal once, scribbling thoughts to pass the time. The pages were filled with notes on the weather, the traps, the rare days I found gold dust in the creek. But over time, the words grew fewer. What was there to say? The days were the same, the nights endless. I'd stopped writing years ago, the pencil worn to a nub. Now I spoke to the fire, my voice rough from disuse. I'd tell it about the past, about the man I used to be. The flames didn't answer, but they listened. Sometimes, I'd swear I heard whispers in their crackle. Maybe it was madness creeping in. I didn't care. The stars were my only visitors, visible through the window on clear nights. They were sharp, bright, like pinpricks in the black sky. I'd watch them for hours, their patterns as familiar as my own hands. They reminded me of the world beyond, vast and uncaring. I wondered if anyone out there thought of me, an old miner lost in the wild. Probably not. My family was long gone, my friends forgotten. The Yukon had claimed me, and I'd let it. I didn't regret it, not exactly. This life was mine, chosen or not. But sometimes, under those stars, I felt the weight of my choices. I'd dream sometimes, vivid dreams of warmth and voices. I'd see faces I hadn't thought of in years. My mother, Tom, a girl I loved once. They'd speak, but their words were lost in the wind. I'd wake to the cold, the fire low, my heart heavy. The dreams left me restless, questioning why I stayed. But where would I go? The world had moved on without me. Here I knew the land, the seasons, the rhythm of survival. The cabin was my anchor, the fire my pulse. I'd stoke it, watch the flames rise, and push the dreams away. Morning always came, and with it, the work. The forest was alive in its own way, though it spoke a language I only half understood. The trees groaned under the weight of snow, their branches snapping in the wind. Wolves prowled at night, their howls a reminder of the wild's indifference. I'd seen bears in summer, their massive forms lumbering through the trees. They left me alone, and I returned the favor. The land didn't care if I lived or died, but it gave me what I needed: wood, game, water. I respected it, feared it sometimes. It was bigger than me, older, and it would outlast me. That thought brought a strange comfort. By my 30th winter, I was old, my body worn like the rocks in the creek. My joints ached, my hands trembled, but I kept going. The routine was all I had. I'd wake, tend the fire, check the traps, eat, sleep. The days blended into one another, a gray haze of survival. I didn't think about the future. It was too far away. The past was closer, but it hurt to dwell on it. So I lived in the present, moment by moment, breath by breath. The fire burned low one night, and I sat staring at it, the cold creeping in. That's when I saw it, a bundle by the hearth, wrapped in hide. Food, left by someone unknown. I froze, staring at the bundle, my heart pounding in my chest. It was real: dried meat, berries, a small loaf of bread, wrapped tight in deer hide. No one had been here. I'd have heard them. The snow outside was untouched, no tracks, no sign of a visitor. I touched the bundle, half expecting it to vanish like a dream. It didn't. The food was fresh, the meat still faintly warm. I looked around the cabin, the fire casting shadows on the walls. Nothing was out of place, yet everything felt different. Someone had been here, silent as a ghost. I didn't know whether to feel grateful or afraid. I ate that night, the first full meal in weeks. The meat was rich, the berries tart, the bread soft despite the cold. It was a gift, no question. But from whom? I chewed slowly, savoring each bite, my mind racing. The nearest village was days away, and no one came this far in winter. I thought of the trappers, but they'd never leave food without a word. The forest people, the natives, kept to themselves, their paths hidden. I'd seen their tracks in summer, faint and fleeting, but never a face. Could it be one of them? I didn't know. The fire crackled, offering no answers. Sleep didn't come easy that night. I lay on my cot, the bundle's presence heavy in the room. I kept my rifle close, though I didn't know why. Whoever left the food meant no harm, yet I felt exposed, watched. The wind howled outside, and I imagined footsteps in the snow. I got up, checked the door, the window. Nothing. Just the endless white, the stars cold above. I stoked the fire, the flames flaring bright, and sat by it until dawn. The bundle was still there, real as ever. I didn't touch it again. It felt like an offering, sacred in a way I couldn't name. Days passed, and I watched the forest closely. I checked my traps twice as often, looking for signs, tracks, broken branches, anything. The snow stayed pristine, the woods silent. I began to doubt myself, wondering if I'd imagined the bundle's sudden appearance. But it was there, its contents dwindling as I ate. I stretched the food as far as I could, mixing it with my own meager supplies. Each bite reminded me of the mystery, the unseen hand that had reached into my world. I spoke to the fire about it, my voice low. No one answered, but I felt less alone. The winter grew harsher, the cold biting deeper. My woodpile was low, and I spent hours hauling logs through the snow. My strength was fading, each step felt heavier than the last. Yet the bundle's gift sustained me, gave me energy I hadn't had in years. I began to think of the giver as a spirit, some guardian of the forest. I'd heard stories from trappers, tales of elders who moved like shadows, leaving blessings for those in need. I'd scoffed at them once, but now I wondered. The land had its secrets, older than me, older than the gold I'd chased. I felt small, humbled. One night, I left my own offering by the fire, a small carving I'd made years ago, a crude wooden bear. It was nothing special, but it was mine, a piece of me. I set it near the hearth, whispering thanks to whoever was listening. The next morning, it was gone. In its place was another bundle, smaller this time, with more meat and a handful of roots. My breath caught. This was no coincidence. Someone was watching, coming and going without a trace. I looked out the window, the snow untouched as always. The forest held its silence, but it felt alive, aware. I wasn't alone anymore. I began to live for those moments, checking the hearth each morning with a flicker of hope. The bundles didn't come every day, but when they did, they were a lifeline. I'd eat, save what I could, and leave something in return, a stone I'd polished, a feather, a scrap of cloth. Each exchange felt like a conversation, wordless but real. I wondered about the elder, picturing an old man or woman, weathered like me, moving through the snow. Why help me? I was no one, just an old miner too stubborn to leave. Yet their kindness kept me going, warmed me more than the fire. The forest seemed different now, less hostile. I'd walk my trap lines and feel eyes on me, not threatening but curious. I'd nod to the trees, a habit I couldn't explain. The wolves' howls sounded softer, the wind less cruel. Maybe I was losing my mind, or maybe I was finally seeing the world as it was. The land wasn't just a place to survive, it was alive, connected, watching. I'd been blind to it for years, too focused on gold, on myself. The elders' gifts woke something in me, a gratitude I hadn't felt in decades. I was part of something bigger now. I started talking more, not just to the fire but to the forest itself. I'd thank the trees for their wood, the snow for its water, the animals for their sacrifice. It felt foolish at first, but it became natural. The elders' visits, though unseen, were a bridge between me and the world I'd ignored. I wondered if they knew how much their gifts meant, how they'd pulled me back from the edge. I was still alone, but it wasn't the same. The cabin felt warmer, the nights less heavy. I'd sit by the fire, carving small figures, leaving them as thanks. Each one was a prayer, a hope for another bundle. Spring was still months away, but I felt a shift inside me. The elders' kindness had changed something, made me want to live, not just survive. I cleaned the cabin, patched the roof, sharpened my tools. I even started writing again, scratching words in an old journal I'd found. I wrote about the bundles, the forest, the elder I'd never seen. The words came slowly, my hands unsteady, but they felt important. I wanted to remember this, to hold on to it. The fire burned brighter those nights, as if it approved. I wasn't just an old miner anymore. I was a man with a story. One morning, I found a new bundle, different from the others. Alongside the food was a small pouch, beaded and worn, holding a single stone, smooth and black. I turned it over in my hands, feeling its weight, its warmth. It was a gift beyond food, a token of something deeper. I sat by the fire, clutching the stone, and spoke to the elder for the first time. I thanked them, my voice breaking, and asked why they'd chosen me. The flames danced, but no answer came. I didn't expect one. The stone was enough, a piece of the forest, a piece of them. I kept it close, a reminder of their presence. The days grew shorter, the cold sharper, but I felt stronger. The elders' gifts were more than food. They were a reason to keep going. I'd wake early, eager to check the hearth, to see if they'd come. Sometimes there was nothing, but I didn't despair. I'd leave my own offerings, more carvings, a braided cord, a piece of flint. The exchanges became a ritual, a silent bond between me and the unseen. I wondered about their life, their reasons for helping a stranger. Were they as alone as I was? Did they know the weight of their kindness? I'd never know, but I felt them with me. I began to notice changes in the forest, small things I'd missed before. A bird's nest in a tree I passed daily, tracks that weren't mine. The land was speaking, and I was learning to listen. I'd walk slower, my eyes sharp, looking for signs of the elder. I never found them, but I felt their presence, like a shadow just out of sight. The bundles kept coming, not every day but often enough. I stretched the food, mixed it with my own, and felt my strength return. The cabin was warmer, the fire steadier. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living, connected to something greater. One night, the wind was fierce, rattling the cabin like a beast. I stoked the fire high, the flames roaring, and sat with a black stone in my hand. I spoke to the elder, my words tumbling out. I told them about my life, my mistakes, the gold I'd never found. I thanked them for their gifts, for reminding me I wasn't forgotten. The storm raged outside, but I felt calm, safe. The fire seemed to nod, its light steady. I left a new carving that night, a wolf, its lines careful and precise. In the morning it was gone, replaced by a small bundle of roots and dried fish. I smiled, my heart full. The winter stretched on, but it didn't feel endless anymore. The elders' visits gave me purpose, a rhythm beyond my own. I'd work harder, chop more wood, mend my clothes. I wanted to be worthy of their kindness, to show I could still stand tall. The cabin felt alive, its walls holding stories I hadn't noticed before. I'd sit by the fire, the black stone in my pocket, and write in my journal. The words were clumsy, but they were mine. I wrote about the elder, the forest, the life I'd found again. Each page was a step toward something new, something I couldn't yet name. I began to dream of the elder, though I never saw their face. In my dreams, they were a shadow, moving through the trees, their steps silent. They'd leave their bundles and vanish, but I felt their warmth, their strength. I'd wake with a start, the fire low, the cabin quiet. The dreams stayed with me, guiding my days. I'd walk the forest, leaving my own signs, a stack of stones, a feather tied to a branch. I wanted them to know I saw them, even if I didn't. The bundles kept coming, each one a message, a thread tying me to the world. I wasn't alone anymore, not truly. The cold was relentless, but I faced it with new resolve. The elders' gifts had changed me, made me see the world differently. I'd sit by the fire, carving, writing, thinking. The black stone was always with me, a talisman of sorts. I wondered if the elder knew how much they'd done, how they'd pulled me from the edge. I wanted to meet them, to thank them, but I knew I might never. Their silence was part of the gift, their mystery a piece of the forest's magic. I accepted it, grateful for what I had. The cabin was my home, but it was more now, a place of connection, not isolation. One morning, I found a larger bundle, heavy with meat, roots, and a small bundle of herbs. The scent was sharp, unfamiliar, but it filled the cabin with life. I cooked the roots that night, their taste earthy and warm. I left my best carving yet, a bird, wings spread, carved from a piece of cedar I'd saved. It was gone by morning, replaced by a single feather, white and soft. I held it to the light, marveling at its beauty. The elder was close, I knew it, but they stayed hidden. I respected that, their choice to remain unseen. Their gifts were enough, more than I deserved. As winter deepened, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. The elders' visits were a steady pulse, a reminder of kindness in a world I'd thought cruel. I'd walk the forest, my steps lighter, my eyes open. The trees seemed to nod, the snow less heavy. I'd write each night, filling pages with thoughts of the elder, the land, the life I'd reclaimed. The black stone stayed in my pocket, a piece of the forest I carried with me. I didn't know how long this would last, but I didn't need to. Each day was a gift, each bundle a miracle. I was ready for whatever came next. The 30th winter was my hardest, but it was also my best. The elders' gifts had saved me, not just from hunger but from myself. I wasn't the man I'd been, alone and adrift. I was part of the forest now, tied to it by an unseen hand. I'd sit by the fire, the black stone in my hand, and feel the weight of 30 years lift. The cabin was warm, the flames bright, the world alive. I didn't know if I'd see the elder, but I didn't need to. Their kindness was enough, a light in the dark. I'd keep living, keep carving, keep writing. The forest was my home, and I was no longer alone. Thank you for listening to this tale of solitude and connection. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to our channel for more stories that touch the heart and soul.